I'm DaJuan Johnson. Welcome to the Think Bigger Actors podcast, where I share with you different kinds of talks and coachings and conversations with actors and industry professionals on thinking bigger. I hope these conversations will help you on your path to success, because I believe success is an inside job that starts with your mindset and the thoughts you hold dominant in your mind. Change your thoughts and you change your world. Your path to thinking bigger begins now. Jamie,
recording in progress. Got it.
we got it. Jamie, I am so like I'm like a kid before Christmas. You know what I mean? Like it's
Thank
like
you.
just
Never been Santa Claus.
Yeah, have you never? Well, there's still time, right? There's still time to put Santa Claus in life. So, thank you so much for being here, man. You know, I know we're friends also, but you have had some major career stuff going on. So we're going to jump into that. But first, I got some rapid fire questions because I don't want to waste any time with you. First of all, what is this? Do you always have this thing over your lip?
No, no. Do you?
No,
I usually have a bit of a beard or stubble. This is specifically for a character I'm playing on 1923 right now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm playing a U.S. Marshal back in 1923. It's a blast. It's horseback and all that. And if you haven't seen the show, it's the part of the Yellowstone prequel. Yeah. And they've got Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any scenes with them, but it's a blast. So we were supposed to be done a while ago. With all the weather changes, Montana got too cold for the horses, too cold to shoot. So they delayed over Christmas. We went up to right near Mount Fraser, about Fraser Park, rather, whatever it is, about an hour and 15 minutes from LA. And we were supposed to finish yesterday. Yeah. And we got rained out and stuff like that. So I got to go back and keep my mustache for a little bit.
Keep it. There's a random connection. Taylor Sheridan used to be my acting coach when he lived here in town in LA. And we used to live 2 houses up in West Hollywood.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And when I adopted my boys, he gave me all of his son's toys and clothes and stuff. And, so we were really close, but now he's doing all the big stuff and I can't get a hold of him. So
you should though. I mean, from what I hear, I only met him once when I was doing Sons of Anarchy and we just, we're talking for a bit. He was an actor back then. And It was kind of a funny story because, he had a really good role in Sons of Anarchy and we were just talking between takes and he's like, I don't know about this acting stuff, man. I don't know. I don't know. I might have a ranch. I might go back to, and I think it was Texas. I don't know. And in my mind, I'm going, what?
Yeah.
You've got a role in a hit show and, it's incredible. And then he got killed off of Sons and he disappeared.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right. And then all of a sudden Sicario comes out and I'm like, oh, is that the same guy?
Right.
And now he is, he's one of the top guys in streaming services, television, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I remember him not liking the uncertainty of it all, right? I remember we were talking about that. I remember him getting ready to write scripts. I remember like when he was doing all that when he was back here in LA, and he just didn't like that. And the Sons of Anarchy story, guys. If you don't know the Sons of Anarchy story with Taylor Sheridan, go Google that and just see how he felt about that. I agree. But anyway, 1923. I didn't know you were on that. Gosh, and I that is going to be fantastic. I hear it's great. It is. I'm just in episode 6 and 8 at this point, and they're going to come back and do another 8 episodes, I believe, maybe in the summer or something. So I hope I get to be part of that in some capacity. Yeah, I was reading on Paramount Plus. They were like, do not kill anybody else off. Because I think in like 1883, he killed the whole
Yeah.
Yeah. They're like, do not kill any more, everybody off on that. But about this beard that you see, or this little I've been looking the same for about a decade and a half in Hollywood, right? Like, we go on where we try to look our youngest possible, right? We try to be as young as possible. And I was just up for a series regular role for a bit. And, we were in hold for it for a couple of months. And one of the things my manager said was, why don't you have to have a high school kid, right? And this, and it was like, but you look like you're trying to be a baby as young.
Right.
And it's like, why don't you embrace that you are moving into this older bracket? And I was like, let me see what that might look like. So if you have any beard tips, man, because I'm so itchy, I'm like, I just want to claw my face off.
Nah, you'll get used to that, and just put a little moisturizer on it. You'll be all right. But that looks good on you, man. I don't think you look older. You look a little wiser.
Wiser.
A little more like, yeah, I've had kids.
Yeah.
But not weathered, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, not weathered yet. It's just something to try. And I like I said, I've never done it because, again, in Hollywood, we've been trying to stay the youngest as possible. I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I can still play college. They're like, no, DaJuan.
Yeah. I basically, I go, if I'm waiting for auditions, whatever, I just kind of let it grow out normally.
Yeah.
And then when I get an audition, I'm like, oh, good, I got that because I need it for this. Or, you know, you need to be clean shaven, then I'll shave.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the jobs just dictate, you know, all right, you're a detective, you're clean shaven or not, you know.
Yeah.
Just sort of like that.
All right. We're going to play some rapid fire real quick before we jump into the big boy questions. And, you know, let's see how this goes. Rapid fire question number 1. What's your favorite role you've ever played?
Ooh.
Come on. We're going to start.
I can't rapid fire that. I gotta say, this may answer another question. I have 4 favorite jobs I've done.
Oh, really? 4? Okay.
3 of them are on Netflix. So thank you, Netflix. But Bloodline, I played Erica Bannon. I love that role. My role on Wednesday as Sheriff Galpin.
Yeah.
I played Shelley in Mank, which was, I was like a cinematographer wanting to be a director. And then I did a little tiny film called Busman's Holiday a couple of years ago. And I played Michael Busman, like a retired cop having trouble. But it was a very good friend of mine, wrote, directed, produced it, all that. And he literally wrote the script. So we went around the world. We had a crew of 2 people. It was him and I and 2 people.
Yeah.
And we went around the world in 1 month and filmed the whole thing. It's out on Amazon. It's called Busman's Holiday.
Oh, I have to look that up. Amazon.
So as favorite role, that's a tough one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. 4 is okay. That's not too bad. Not too bad. So how about this one? How about this next question is, what's your dream role? What's your dream role? What are you dying to play?
Wow. That's a great question. I would like to play Gene Hackman's son.
Yeah. That's very specific.
I've wanted that from day one. I think it's there. He's, you know, Hackman's 90 something now, and he hasn't worked in a long time, but I don't think I'd be a draw for him. But
that's very interesting. You know, gosh, I can't remember her name right now, but she was in Tina Turner. Jennifer, she just wrote a book, Black Woman. I want to play her son too. Like, it's so interesting. 20 years ago, I don't want to say Jennifer Holliday. That's not what I'm thinking, but it's off the tip of my tongue. But it's interesting you say that, because I want to. Not Jennifer Hudson. Oh, I can't remember her name, but we'll look it up.
We'll figure it out.
But she was in Blackish. She was in Blackish, and she played Anthony's mother. So I can't remember it, but I want to play her mom too, and
her son.
Sorry, I want to play her son. But that's interesting you said that. All right, last rapid fire question here is, and I already know you're going to say, DaJuan, I can't rapid fire this one, but I'm gonna try. Why did you become an actor?
When I was 4 or 5, my mother took my 2 sisters and I to see Robin Hood, the animated Disney version, in the theater. And I watched Robin Hood, and I knew he was an animated character. But I was, in my mind, I'm like, that's what I want to do. And I went home and found some wood in the basement and like put a nail through a little piece of wood to a long piece of wood and made a sword. And, you know, pretended outside I was Robin Hood. And then as I got a little older, you'd watch reruns all the time. It was way before cable or anything like that. And I'd watch, you know, the Addams Family, the Munsters, I Dream of Jeannie, F Troop. I don't know if your listeners know some of these shows, but I always kind of wanted to be the second, not the lead dude, but the second dude. And ever since I was a kid, I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to do. And then as I got a little older, Gene Hackman became a huge influence, as did like Clint Eastwood and Alan Alda specifically in MASH. And then the whole journey from that moment of wanting to, you know, things happening in life and being like, this will never happen, forget it. Yeah. To where I am is another journey.
I love that. I know those shows. I know
Yeah.
Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie and all.
Yeah.
Yeah, MASH. MASH was in reruns when I was a little bit younger, but I did watch it as well. And you know, I agree with a lot of that stuff about being an actor. You know, I don't know if my listeners know this, but here's a bit of trivia for you. I arrested Jamie McShane.
And you know, the real irony is where you arrested me. When you arrested me, I didn't live in this area. Mm-hmm. Now I got to know the area because of you arresting me there. I live literally, I think it's 10 houses from the driveway that you arrested me. Yeah.
I didn't want to bring that up. I didn't want to bring that up if anybody, you know, knew that.
No.
But no, it was really fun. And, you know, I have to say that I remember that day, all of that so clearly, because one of the things about working on a series is so many people come through. Right. Mm-hmm. So many people come through. If you're lucky to be on it 7 years, you get to see a lot of people. And Titus knows a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people came through because of him. And I was so awestruck because I had seen Bloodlines.
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, I get to arrest, you know, and it was just such a really, really, really cool to arrest Frankie, you know, you know, RHD Frankie. So
I got to say, you were fantastic in that show. You were really fantastic, really wonderful.
Thank you.
So,
you said pleasure. You said that when we were doing that. And I was just like, wait, you know who I am? Because
man.
It's like, I think you said this somewhere I read, it's like this little kid. We're doing what we do, right? And so it doesn't click that we are also like in it and people see us as well, like kind of like that weird, like, you know, and so when you kind of recognize and you're like, you're doing great, man. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Similar like that, but at a very different level from me. But I was going to work on Mank and Fincher had rehearsals. Yeah. So I walked into a rehearsal and I met Gary Oldman and Gary goes, "Oh, Jamie, I know you." And I'm like, you do? He goes, "Well, of course I do." I go, "Really?" He goes, "Well, I know your work. Mm-hmm. You're wonderful." And I was like, Gary Oldman knows who I am. Like, that's crazy.
It's very interesting because the little kid in us hasn't caught up.
Yeah.
That little kid in us hasn't caught up with all of that stuff. But Jamie, in my mind, you know, again, Bloodlines was fantastic. But you know, I would love to talk about for our audience, if you don't mind, about your road to being a series regular, because you, in my mind, are the professional working actor. Like you work, right? And you've been working, you know, I don't know how you feel about your career, but like you've been working. Like, I mean, you've been on so many shows from co-star to guest star to series you know, all that. So I'm trying to figure out how to say this the best way. Here's how I'll say this. I read an article about you after BOSCH that you had gotten Bloodline. And in the article, it said, it took you 25 years to get your first series regular. And that was so inspiring to me back then because I had been working so hard. We know our story on BOSCH. And I was like, is this ever going to happen? Is this ever going to, I was like, I feel like, you know, after like 15, 16, 17 years, I was like, I don't know if this is going to happen for me. And I remember reading your article out about Bloodline and thinking, oh, it can still happen. Don't lose the faith. So if you would mind, I mean, just talk about your road to series regular, because it was in New Jersey, New York, and it started.
Jersey, New York. I mean, even to the point of doing a dinner theater at a mall in Jersey, serving food and all. Yeah. To sum it up, so I told you the stuff about seeing Robin Hood and then the watching reruns of the shows. So at that time, I was always been a pretty good athlete, and I got very good at hockey. I played ice hockey. I started when I was like 5, and when I was 10 and a half, I was playing on a team and I was a captain of the team and I had scoring records. And I thought, you know, people used to come up to my dad and say, he's going to play in the Olympics. And so I thought in my mind, like, oh, this is how my life is going to go. I'm going to play in the Olympics. I'm going to turn pro. And then some guy's going to see me on the rink and go, hey kid, we need you in a movie. And that was it. And that's how I was like, that's how I become an actor.
Yeah.
Then I had a freak head injury in school. I slipped on sawdust. And basically I fell back, I smashed the back of my head, the side of my skull cracked and cut the artery. So that I wasn't supposed to make it through that. I did, blah, blah. I couldn't play any contact sports anymore. I wound up picking up tennis, whatever. But at that point, you know, I was 10 and a half. Had to get through
this happened at 10
that.
and a half?
Yeah. And then went to a different school where no one knew me and I had to wear a helmet. And I was, not abused, but, bullied and crap like that. And I've been such a tough kid, but now I couldn't react. I couldn't retaliate. So I just gave up on my dreams. I'm like, all right, everyone wants to be a rock star or a pro athlete or an actor. So went through college, played tennis, went through high school, played tennis, had some offers from college, didn't go to those, went to University of Richmond, which was lovely. And I just didn't know what to do. So I majored in English because I didn't know what to do. I like poetry and I was totally clueless.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was driving, a buddy of mine and I were driving back from Richmond after we graduated. He's like, what do you want to do? And I'm like, man, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor. And he was like, me too. And so I saved up and I backpacked around the world. I was 22. And some guy in Australia goes, hey, mate, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, I always want to be an actor. He's like, why don't you do it? And it was the first time I was like, oh, yeah, why don't I at least try it? I'll give it 6 months, So I went back to Jersey. I literally was looking through the paper. I took an interview to sell vacuum cleaners. And I'd worked for my dad. He had a microscope company, sold and fixed microscopes. And I used to drive a truck for him and do deliveries and pickups during the summer and teach tennis and stuff. And then he's like, well, why don't you work for me while you're trying to figure this out? So I was doing that. I found like this modeling agency, quote unquote, in Jersey.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what a headshot was. I didn't know anything. So I went to this place and they basically took me for a ride, ripped me off, took my money. I figured out what was up, started going to New York, met some people. They said, this is what a headshot is. This is what a resume is. I took one class for a bit and I had taken one intro class in New Jersey. And the teacher at the class was like, you need to work. Whatever you can do, anything, work. So I went to the modeling agency and I caused a bit of a stink and they gave me a check for most of my money back. And then I got my SAG card, luckily. I used to rollerblade all over New York and like map out where I was going to go and hit as many offices, casting or agents that I could. And one, I bumped into a guy in an elevator. He said, go on this audition. I happened to book it. It was a reenactment show. And that got me my SAG card.
Yeah.
So then I just started doing extra work. Rollerblading was huge back in the 90s and I could skate quite well. So I got a lot of that. I did stand-in work, and every time I just had that edge of like, God, I want to be that guy. I want to be that guy. I want to be that role. We've all had. And then I did play after play and, nothing anyone would know or things they'd know, but not in venues they'd know, like the Mall in Jersey. And then I got little bits on soaps, like Under Fives, did indies, did a lot of student films. Mm-hmm. And that was my journey. And I would drive the truck, 4 days a week, delivering, picking up microscopes and literally like crying and slamming my head in the steering wheel, being like, God, if this isn't going to happen, let me quit because I can't take this. I just can't take it. So then after about 9 years, I moved to LA and I got a couple jobs just from banging on doors. And then someone introduced me to casting workshops. I didn't know what they were. And I just kind of made that an investment at the time. And I did a lot, like a couple a week. And finally, this casting director named Scott Jenkins called me in and I got this huge guest star in NYPD Blue. And then he started calling me in for other stuff and I kept booking what he called me in for. And then other casting directors did. And it kind of went that route.
Yeah.
And then after like 12 years, I got an agent. It took me that long to get an agent.
No. I don't believe you. I don't believe you.
Man.
Are you telling me like 12, like all this time while you were out here doing CD workshops and all that stuff, you didn't have a proper agent?
I didn't have an agent that got me or could get me work. Yeah. In New York, you could freelance.
Yeah.
So commercial agents would pick me up because I could play most sports. So they could send me for that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't get someone theatrically to really rep me and do anything. So I came out here, I had someone for a little bit, but they weren't getting me anything. I was getting my own work. And then finally, this woman, Kim Dorr, who I'm still very close with, she was at Defining Artists and she was just starting her company. It had been Bobby Ball. And she took me on and she started getting me auditions and I started booking them for me. And that got me going. And then got a recurring on 24 because I played tennis a bunch with the creator of the show. And he brought me in and, he liked what I did. And then I had to go from co-star to guest star, which was a jump. And then I got an audition for Sons of Anarchy, and I played this Irish character, Cameron Hayes. And then the show became a hit, and I'd done like 3 episodes, and then they wound up, Kurt Sutter, I guess, liked what I did enough to kind of design, not the whole season, but the cliffhanger of the season was going to involve me.
Yeah.
So it set me up in the beginning, and then I had a lot towards the end of the season. And that was my first like major recurring like role. And then I went from that and I did
so
Southland.
We're about at like 15 years. We're about at like 15 years right now, right?
Yeah,
like, you been over 12. I'm just kind of mapping, like, as you're talking, we got a good agent about 12 years in.
Yeah. So I started in 1990. And so I know I did Sons in 2011. So what's that?
We're not going to do math in public.
That's like 20. That's like 21 years there.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're a little bit later.
That's 21 years. So we're talking, a little more in. I mean, I did a lot of guest spots and all. And then I kept doing guest stuff. And then I got recurring on Southland, which was like a critically acclaimed show.
So good.
Wonderful people. And then
Regina King, right?
Regina, she's a sweetheart. And then what happened was Kim was at a smaller agency, and I thought I needed something a little higher, but I wasn't going to leave her. I love her. And I got a manager named Devin Jackson, whom I'm with at Trademark Talent. And once I got him, all of a sudden I had a pilot season. I'd never had a pilot season really before. Kim had me up for a couple pilots, and I tested once, and Kim was fantastic. And then all of a sudden it was like I read for 3 pilots, and one of them was Bloodline, and I booked it. And then that was 25 years into my career. And all of a sudden it was like I booked this series. And at first I didn't want to do it because it was in Florida and I'd never been away from my kids. But it was Sissy Spacek.
How old were they now? How old were your kids about that time?
2014, 10 and 8.
Yeah.
About.
Yeah.
And I got Bloodline, and the cast, Kyle Chandler, Sissy Spacek, Sam Shepard, Linda Cardellini, everyone. It was just like, oh my God. For me, it was like going from the minors to the all-star team, and I'm on the 3rd line, but I'm playing. And then that just kind of changed my world. And that put me put me on what they call the lists. Like when it comes to pilot season, you got to be on the list, and it's like getting your SAG card. You can't get it unless you have work, and you can't get work unless you have it. So that sort of changed things. Yeah.
So before you go, because I love like the lead up to this 25 years to get on to Bloodline, to get the series regular, to get on the list. I love that stuff. Now, before we leave this part, I just want to know, how did you stay focused or stay in it? Because if that took 25 years, it seems like there was some years where you didn't work as much, but you kept going, or you kept working towards that. How did you stay in it? Like, I mean, I know I read somewhere you had a 2017 that was amazing, but that's later still, you know what I mean? After, so.
Yeah, I think a couple of things, it was really rough when I lived in Jersey and was acting in New York as much as I could. Those are rough times because I couldn't get an agent, whatever. I got a couple things like, little things that kept, bolstering me, got a commercial, got this. I was a body double for John McEnroe, and that was the first time I made enough money to get insurance, different little things.
Right.
And then I met a guy who became a mentor to me, and he's like, you got to move to LA. 10 years are going to go by and you're still selling microscopes. So he encouraged me to move out, gave me a place to stay for like 6 months. And then I started getting little roles.
Okay.
And then another role, and then another role. And then I did a student film called Fine that I was the lead in, that it was one of 3 that won the Student Academy Award in 2001, I think. And then that was like, boom, that was pretty cool. And then agencies started looking at me. Then I got Kim, like Defining Artists. And then I started getting auditions.
Okay.
And then I started booking stuff. And, then it's like, co-star, guest star, co-star, and then the transition from co-star to only guest stars and kind of moving up the chain. So that kept me going. And my ex-wife was very supportive, and she's a school teacher, so we had steady income. But pretty much after 1 year here, I was making enough to at least get by.
Got it.
We didn't have kids yet. My overhead was quite lower than now.
Yeah. I just wonder sometimes, right? Because, I mean, listen, I've been working too. And when I'm looking back on it, I'm like, gosh, we have years where we've done only 5 things, but those 5 things can get you, insurance, they can keep you going. But like 5 things out of 12 months, if we're really doing the math on that, something's a little bit off. You know what I mean? There's months where we weren't working before. Like before I did BOSCH, I was doing, once a quarter. Do you know what I mean? So I was just wondering about what kept you going, your spirit, your like, this is what I want to do, or there's nothing else I want to do.
Yeah, it was, this is what I want to do. I believed in it since I was a kid. I still believe in it. And I'm getting enough validation from booking work, from my agent, eventually the manager, and from people whom I was working for that kept calling me back, or just, giving you compliments that seemed very genuine.
Yeah.
And that bolsters you. And then having people that you knew growing up, or, friends or whatever, like, hey, I saw you in, CSI, and
yeah.
Little things like that just keep you going enough. And then you get on like a 24 or Sons of Anarchy, and you're like, whoa, this is next level. And, as an actor, hopefully you're paid well enough that, you're getting enough to sustain you for a month in one job or something,
Yeah. I did 24 too. I was like,
oh yeah.
Yeah. I think I recurred on the year. I think they went to, I don't know, it was Africa or something where the thing,
wow.
I did it, or I can't remember. It was just like a whole thing, but I remember when I got that check, it was like my biggest check at that time for recurring. I think it was my first recurring. And I was like, there's a comma in the money.
What did you play?
I just played a tech guy, right? Like I played a tech guy, and I was like, we're landing the plane or something like that. Just 2 episodes of that, and it was really, really, really great, because I remember when Kiefer, he busts in and blows the place up, and I'm laying on the floor dead, and I'm laying under him. I'm trying to watch everything he's doing as he's dead, and I just remember how low he used to talk, and I couldn't.
Yeah.
It was the first time I had really, really, when you're younger, you're trying to learn all you can while you're on these sets. And I remember thinking, oh, the microphone's right here. They hide it or wherever it is. We don't have to, like, because I was coming from stage at that point, try to hit the back. And I remember thinking, like, I'm literally laying on the floor under him, and I cannot hear him. And it was so low. But anyway, it was just I'd watched it for years, and then 24 on that.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it was pretty dope on that. So we're at 25 years, and what I heard was, things started to change. You're on lists and stuff like that. And, I'm wondering, how has it been since Bloodline? Because, sometimes we're waiting for things to click. We're waiting for things like this is going to be the thing. And I bet maybe you thought Southland was going to be the thing that got you to that next level. Or
well, Southland was before Bloodline. Southland, I recurred, and it was it was such an incredible show to be on. And Michael Cudlitz in particular was just like, and Chris Chulak is the showrunner of the show. Chris has been great to me. But Michael Cudlitz is a wonderful actor. He just sort of like looked out for me.
Yeah.
And he told me one time, I'd asked something, and I finally got a scene where I wasn't in the squad room. I was at a bar, and I guess they had a scene. They're like, yeah, we got to get a cop in the bar. We're going to audition some people. And Michael was like, what are you doing? You got Jamie.
Yeah.
Put him in the bar. Otherwise you're going to have to get someone, and then it's going to take him half the day to learn how understated we are or whatever. And he was really wonderful to me. And interestingly, this past summer, I did a short film that Michael directed and his wife, Rachel, wrote.
Yeah. You go back on that. Titus was that guy for me.
Yeah.
Titus was my Michael. He was. And, he had said, we did a scene in the pilot of BOSCH, and, I just came on. I didn't know any better. Like I didn't really understand the co-star, guest star, series regular billing stuff. And I just walked on there. I was like, I'm going to do the best job I can, And I remember this guy, Titus, just saying to me, he said, we'll see you back. And I was like,
That's awesome.
all right.
I just got chills. I
I remember,
that's awesome.
And I was kind of like, yeah, all right, whatever. Like, because I had heard I was going to come back on like 24 or whatever. So I had heard that before and I was a little bit jaded. And let me tell you, he meant it. He meant it. Yeah. And, and he kept. And so every time when I was on that show, it was a lot for the first season, I was with Titus. So I brought my F&A game and
you got someone to bounce it off of. That's so good.
Yes. And
that's the thing.
He wanted people that were going to like come prepared, do their stuff and leave, not cause a problem. You know what I mean? Like, and so as he moved up in there, I think he was definitely my guardian angel on all that stuff. I mean, I told him that we've talked.
Yeah. I want to comment on that because you said you went in there and it's your first, whatever, and you gave your all.
Yeah.
Just to our audience here, every take, give your all. If the camera's not on you, give your all to that other actor. Yeah. Give your all.
Yeah.
I had a wonderful instance with Holly Hunter. She's an Academy Award winner, sweet lady. I was working on a show that she was the lead in. And I had a scene where I was, really upset and crying or whatever. And I guess they'd shot all my stuff and they turned around on Holly. And then for some reason, the tears started kicking in big time for me, more so than when the camera was on me. So I let it go. And I just went all out. And Holly, I would ask her, do you need anything else? She's like, no, but she wouldn't say much. And then we finished the scene and she goes, are we done? Are we wrapped this scene? Yeah. Okay. She grabs my hand. She holds my hand. It's Holly Hunter. She looks at me like this close. She goes, you are the most generous actor I've ever worked with. Thank you. And you're like, and talk about things that keep you going.
Yeah. That. Yes.
And on that note, take nothing for granted. You get a lead in something, enjoy it, relish it. It may not happen again. It may be just the cusp of your career starting. You don't know.
Yeah.
But relish every moment because we are so fortunate.
Yeah.
Everyone in the world wants to do what we do. I mean, pretty much everyone.
Yeah.
And we get to do it. It's incredible.
You know what I would add to that, since we're piggybacking, I would add to that, just know everybody's watching. Everybody's watching and you don't know. And I mean that, yes, the bigger audience, like you're talking about the millions of people, but we're talking about that in that bubble that we're in. Yep. You never know who is the AD that's going to be directing soon or who is a producer that's going to be producing some other stuff. Everybody is watching your etiquette on set. And again, a lot of my growing up on sets came from Titus, and the way that guy behaved was just so generous to everybody. So when I was on set and anybody was a co-star or a guest star that came on, I made them welcome.
Any extras,
everybody.
Because I've done a boatload of extra work. So I introduce myself, I say hello, and they appreciate it because normally they're so overlooked.
Yeah.
And on that note, like, I'm sure you're the same way, but I go to work on a job and I know someone from the crew.
Yes.
Someone's worked with me. I mean, I'm doing 1923. I've already got, 5-6 people whom I've worked with before.
Yeah.
And, it's, just be nice, be kind.
Yes. Be kind,
genuine,
prepared, and leave all your actor crap in the trailer, because
I worked on Animal Kingdom. Sean Haddisy is one of the leads in that. Sean's actually has done some auditions taping me. So I worked on Animal Kingdom and Sean was directing. And Sean's, the characters he plays, he's badass and he can be cruel and he's such a sweet guy, like such a sweet guy. I walked onto his set and he was directing, and that show had some actors who were not as likable by the crew and all, and in general. And every crew person was like, "Oh, Sean? We love Sean. Mm-hmm. We love Sean." Every crew member. Yeah. And Sean is like understated, and it really hit more of that home for me.
Yeah, I think it's important to just everybody I knew on set in the crew. I knew them all.
Yeah.
I talked to them. I made sure, and not because of anything more than I just wanted to just know everybody who's around me. But when you're moving into a Saturday, or you're moving and you're tired, they're tired, it just is a different feel for everybody because they love you. You know what I mean?
But you're such a sweetheart of a human being to begin with, and kudos to you for bringing just who you are to the set and still bringing your character to life and bringing some of that sweetness into a character who has to be a hard ass, at times.
Thank you.
Good job. Yeah, man.
I appreciate that. Listen, before we run away from, the series regular talk, because I think it's fantastic. I just wondered when you were saying Wednesday, because that's one of the ones that you just did that congratulations was so great. I didn't know you were on that, by the way.
Yeah.
I see you walking your dog and doing that stuff,
Yeah.
and so I didn't know you were on that, but I knew you had flown away to where you were flying. Yes.
We filmed in Bucharest, Romania. For 7 months.
I was going to say, I knew you had gone there. I got a random thought that I just thought about. Did you self-tape that?
Sean Hattie taped it for me.
But it was a self-tape.
Yeah.
The first part. The first one?
Yeah.
Tell me that process. So Sean Hattie taped that self-tape and...
Yeah. So, Sean, one day we played tennis a lot together and he's like, I got a new camera. If you ever want me to help you with an audition. And this is Sean Hattie, who's a director and a huge actor, star, right? And I'm like, okay. And we're buddies. We played a lot of tennis together. And so at that time, he did 13, 14 auditions in a row for me. And I feel bad asking, but he's like, yeah, no problem. So I had all these auditions that time. And I remember I auditioned, 2 years ago, and it was like the end of February. And it's like Tim Burton's doing this Addams Family thing. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And
I got the sides and I relieved the character, and all these other auditions I was having, they were heavy roles. They were meaty. They were crying. They were this, they were that. And this was just kind of simple. And I'm like, I don't know what to do with this. Mm-hmm. I'm like, this is just kind of me, but I think a little grumpier. So I just did that. And then I didn't hear anything for months.
Wow.
And then all these other things, I was down to the wire. Like, you're the second for the, blah, blah. I didn't get any of them. And then I'm like, crap. And then May comes along and they're like, you're still up for that Tim Burton thing. They're trying to find the lead. They're trying to find where they're going to film. Another 2 months goes along. We're in July and they're like, you're really up for this thing. You're in the running. And then the end of July, they're like, you're booked. You're leaving for Bucharest at the end of next month.
February to July. February to July. Wow.
Yeah. The end of July.
End of July. Okay. So almost August there.
Yeah. Cause I was hoping I'd hear by my birthday, which was July 22nd. And I didn't hear that. So I think it was the 28th. But the creators of the show, Al Gough, Gough, and Miles Millar, who are sweethearts, wonderful guys, incredible writers. They told me from the get-go and reiterated it recently. They go, Tim wanted you, and that was it. Yeah. He wouldn't even consider anyone else. And that was just from a tape.
I was just going to say, you didn't do another thing? You just did that one take?
Just did that one take. It was 2 scenes. Wow. And then I got to set, and, Tim and I are talking, or he invites me in his office. And I'm like, did you know me before? He goes, no. He goes, no, he just, I was always afraid of cops and I was scared of you. It's like, and I didn't do anything scary. So, and Tim was wonderful and the whole show was great. Yeah. Thank you.
So good on that. You're so, again, you popped up because I have a friend over at Netflix who's an exec over there, and he had helped greenlight that show. And he was like, watch this show so we can make sure we're getting, he's always like, watch these shows. And I was like, great, I'll watch it. And I turned it on. I was like, sweet. Tell me. So fantastic on that. Jamie, I want to move into your acting, like the acting part of this. I've read that you said, I prepare for an audition immensely, and you've said, I've got to get the job. When you're thinking about this, every single audition, I feel like I've got to get this job. I have to do my best. It's something I've read you said. And I guess, what does that process look like when you get a scene? You talked about Wednesday, or you talked about, we could talk about The Passage or whatever you want. When you get a scene, like if you could think about 3 things you do to get in, to find your way into these characters, what would that look like? You don't have to keep it to 3. You don't have to keep it to 3.
Yeah, thanks. I read the sides and I go with my first gut feeling. Like, who is this for me? Who is this guy? And a lot of times I get it down for me. It may not be right for what they want. What they want may not feel right to me. And then I'm not really doing my thing. Mm-hmm. And then it can vary. It varies with the thing. For Bloodline, it was ironic. I read the sides, and I immediately knew how I wanted to talk. I immediately knew the cadence, and I didn't know why. And then I immediately thought, what does this guy wear? Like, sometimes I got to put on the clothes that I feel to get me into it. With this guy who's so specific, I needed like sandals or flip-flops and crappy shorts and a little dirty and, stuff like that. And just a little segue here, but I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, a little alienated from my brothers, but one I hadn't talked to for a couple of years. And I was doing Bloodline. I'd done 2 seasons. And then he left me a voicemail. Hadn't heard from him in years. And I went, oh my God, I have been playing my brother Josh for 2 seasons on Bloodline. I didn't even realize it. Yeah. But that whole cadence of speech, that whole attitude, that whole being. And I've brought him into other roles and my other brother into other roles over the years, knowingly and working like, all right, this is this brother, this happened. So I get the feel, I go with my instinct. Sometimes I figure out what to wear. Definitely the cadence of the voice, how I want him to speak, the feel for the show. Who is it that I can relate to? Mm-hmm. Like some roles, like the Sheriff Galpin, fortunately on Wednesday, it's just kind of me. Mm-hmm. And I've played so many cops. Mm-hmm. I've played so many cops and I love it. But that's very second nature to me now. It's just, I know how to play my version of a cop. And I can tweak it. And then I draw from my brothers. I draw from people I see. I'll clock a homeless person. What are they doing? Or I'll watch police or, just someone at a bar or a restaurant. Like you kind of take in all this information and then things will pop up like, oh yeah, man, when I was traveling, when I was 22, this guy in New Zealand or something like, oh, that's this guy. Mm-hmm. And then I'll take what I remember and then embellish the rest within what I know I can do and make it real. It's gotta be, every single moment's gotta be real within me. Yeah. And once in a while I've had it where I had a totally different take than what was on the page. Mm-hmm. And I brought it and booked that. And the one time I auditioned for a series regular early on was that, where it was supposed to be the CIA guy and every other guy in the room was in a nice suit and he looked like he stepped out of GQ and was gorgeous. And him walk, me with this mug. And I just had on jeans and a leather jacket. I just saw it differently. And it came down to when they tested us, it came down between me and James Bond. And then the James Bond guy got it. But I brought something they were like, oh, wait a minute. That's different.
Yeah. Jamie, if 2022 taught me anything, right? It probably taught so much, but it was that to really, really make sure you're putting your take on it.
Yeah.
That was for me, because, I came off a show and I was kind of like, I know what they want. I know how to stand here. I know what we're doing because we've worked. Right. And, and I grazed, I did all the other stuff. And I was like, I know what it is, but that was me trying to just do what they wanted instead of like, what do you really think about this role, DaJuan? Like, what is your take? And I have forgotten that, because I think one of the things that you do when you're on a show, and maybe you can speak to this, is we know what they want from us in that series. I couldn't go on BOSCH and be like, I think Pierce is going to be funny today. Like I couldn't go on there and be like, I could have my own secret, if you will, but they wanted me to catch the killer or, find the evidence. And so, I knew what they wanted. I don't know how you stretch out of that, unless you're auditioning, if that makes sense, So
I think, when I was younger, I tried to be like a little more like Mel Gibson or a little more like this or whatever. And you can take bits and pieces from everyone, but you got to make it your own, because your uniqueness is you, whoever you are, male, female, whatever you are. You're gorgeous. Yep. You're, not so gorgeous. You're tall, you're short, whatever. Mm-hmm. You got to bring whatever that special little spark is, so that's you, that you can put into a character.
Yeah.
Whether the character is totally different from you,
mm-hmm.
You got to bring that spark of you into it.
I agree. Yeah. I got a random question for you. We're about ready to land this plane here. And I wondered, you've done co-stars, you've done guest stars, you've ping pong back. Now you're in that series regular list place, and we're talking about preparing for a role. Do you think you prepare massively different for each of those different billings? So for example, No.
I could have
get it out. How do you know?
No, man, I could have had 2 lines as a co-star. Now I'm not going to over prepare it, because it's got to be simple.
Yep.
This is huge. Mm-hmm, even as a, so now I've been a series regular on a few things. I hope to keep doing so. I recur on things like 1923. Thank you. You too. It's not about you. It's not about you. Unless you're the lead, or certain scenes are about you. Like I've had certain scenes and certain things that they are about my character, but it's not about you. Okay. On camera, off camera, on the set, it's not about you. You know, so I think that's one of the things I understood going into acting and not having much training at all was I'm here to say, he's the perp. I cuffed him. There's fingerprints, you know, see it. And just keep it simple, keep it real. And it's about the leads.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's about the story. So yeah, I would say that. So yes, I would have prepared as much without over preparing. And the difference is when you have 2 lines, you memorize them pretty quick. When you've got 10 pages of something, it just takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
You know,
I have been on this train for so long. You know, I'm not like doing anything drastically different as a co-star or as a, you know, when I audition for series regulars or recurrence and stuff like that. I love that. How do you handle rejection, man? Do you still get rejected?
Oh, I'm horrible.
Do you still get rejected? What do you mean horrible?
I mean, I'm horrible. And like when I came back from Romania, you know, I came back, I'd been there 7 months, home a couple of weeks for Christmas. We got COVID tested every day, 5 days a week, in the end, 6 days a week. I come home, I get COVID, probably from the plane ride back, right? And then I was up for a couple big roles and some stuff, and I didn't get them. And then I went like 4 months without working, which is a lot for me. You know, knock on wood. But and then I got Michael Cudlitz. You know, I did that short film for him, and it felt good just to be back in the saddle. Yeah. Wow. And then I got a couple things after that. But to go 4 months, to come off a show like Wednesday, and we didn't know it was going to be the hit it was going to be, but it was Tim Burton, it was Alan Miles, it was Jenna, and just
you guys probably not going to get a second season. You probably guys are not going to get a second season.
We got picked up.
I know you did. I know. Yeah.
But that's another thing. But it was just like, it's still that feeling of like, am I ever going to work again? Am I ever going to work? Really? I know a couple actors who have talked to Oscar-winning actors who were like, you know, they just won their Oscar and they're like, what's next? And you're like, I have no idea. I don't know.
Wait, time out. Time out.
Yeah.
That's your feeling still? Like this doesn't end, man. There's like, it's just like.
No, it doesn't. And I think part of that is, you know, I have 2 kids. They're starting to go to college. I've got to pay for college. Mm-hmm. I have 2 step-kids whom I help out. I have my partner, my girlfriend, whom I live with. You know, we're
mortgage.
Mortgage, my ex. So my overhead, despite, you know, the old truck with the dent and the stucco on it that I drive, I have high overhead for, you know, a guy who lives a pretty low-key life. And I think that scares me. So there's a lot of fear of like, God, I'm not going to work. I can't do anything else. Yeah. And what else is going to afford this, you know?
Yeah.
And then, but on the note of Wednesday getting picked up, it did get picked up. And that's exciting. And it's great people. But then as, you know, I'm a series regular on it, but you're also like, well, what are they going to do with the storyline? Because I'm not Titus on BOSCH.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a great role. I love it in Wednesday. Love my role. Mm-hmm. You know, it's all about Jenna Ortega, which it should be. She's amazing on Wednesday. Yeah. So I'm like, all right, am I coming back in all 8? Am I only in a couple? Like, so you worry about that. And then also, we're going to film probably in Ireland or England. So that's another thing. It's like, as an actor, you're like, you know, I was in Romania. Right. That's about as far away on the globe as you can get for 7 months. Mm-hmm. And you're like, where am I going to be? And I still, all right, one kid's in college, the one's still in high school. Heather's here. We got the dogs. We got the like, how do you take care of all that?
And keep a relationship going too. And keep a relationship going and stuff like that. You don't think about. Yeah. I appreciate you saying that, man, because I think sometimes, you know, actors listening to that, we think we're going to get to this different level and all of our fears and all of our things are going to be solved. Our things are going to be solved. And we're not going to feel like, you know, coming from job to job to job that's what's going to happen. We're going to go job to job to job. But when we don't, that stuff comes back up of like, oh, did I peak? Have I peaked? Like, you know what I mean? Have I? And I mean, of course, that's not true because we're going to work again. But I appreciate you saying that, like, oh, I've thought in that 4 months, am I going to work again? You know,
that was interesting. Back when I was doing guest stars and I lost that pilot, the one I tested for at the time where James Bond got it. I remember saying, I'm like, well, maybe this is it for me. Maybe I'm just going to be a guest star actor, and that, it's not going to happen. And I was real down and all that, and then things happened. I think the fortunate thing I have and you have, and I think they're getting much better with female actresses about this, is letting you age. And let me look at Helen Mirren, I mean, a guy like me with a mug like this, hopefully I get to keep working and, get to be old and working, whatever, So yeah. I'm hoping I haven't peaked, but I haven't really entertained that thought.
No, that's my thought. Don't take that on. That's what I thought at some point. But
great, put that in my head.
Right. I was like, don't take that on. But I've also heard that you think you're a character actor, and I think of you as the lead. Like you've been leads or something. In my mind, character is kind of like that guy who comes on. It's like makes people laugh or grumpy or something like that. But you, in my mind, are lead. Like you.
Well, I'd like to see it like. I think some of the greatest character actors I've seen, the greatest males that, obviously Meryl Streep is a female, but Gary Oldman, Johnny Depp, Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Like you look at some of the work they did. I mean, him as Chaplin, Johnny Depp, there's so many things, Gary Oldman, if you watch True Romance and you see him with the dreadlocks and the washed out eye and, metal teeth. I mean, it's insane. Yeah. But they're all leading men.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think, they're all really good looking guys. I fall more into, hopefully the Hackman-esque,
yes.
character sort of who hopefully I get to be a lead. But, I love where my career is. I really do. I really love and appreciate where I am at this point in my career and hope to continue like that and escalate a bit.
I love that, man. I got two more questions on my mind that I really want to ask you.
Yeah.
The first one is, you have talked a lot about your kids. And one of the things that I always try to do in my life and, on my podcast and any spaces is just send love letters out to parents, because a lot of people wait to become parents because they think I got to get everything. But you've integrated it. You've thought about your kids. You still moved on, moved up the ladder in your career. And I guess I just wonder, how did you integrate this whole machine of an industry career with being a dad? Like, how did that, I don't know if that's the right question I want to ask. It just feels like you,
I think it's the same thing you're doing. Like you're like, I can do this podcast this weekend. We don't have any baseball practices.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Like, I mean, how old are your kids?
Oh, they're 11 and 12. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you're in the thick of it. I have no plan. It's just, my ex and I had kids. She was a school teacher. She had steady income. And, looking back on it, I was fortunate because I was guest starring a lot and recurring, but most of it was in town.
Right.
So I was Mr. Mom. Like, I was the one, walking them to school every day, picking them up, feeding them, changing all the diapers. Maura did a lot of that when she was home from work. And then when I did go away or had auditions, then we had a sitter that we would split with another family, and I'd call the family and be like, hey, I need, so-and-so more this week. They're right. All right, cool.
Yeah. And
it was just sort of piecing it together. That's what parenthood is. It's piecing it together, man. And trying to move forward. It still is at this point.
It's still
my boys are older,
I would say, I always said this, that I'm so fortunate to have been on BOSCH for so many reasons, but more importantly, because it was 7 years in LA. So
that's incredible.
Yes. So I got to put my kids to bed or wake up with them. So take them to school. So I was in one of the two places.
Yeah.
And, now I'm on that place of like, please send me to Vancouver. Please send me to Vancouver. You know what I mean? For a little bit. Yeah. Here's my last thought for you, man.
That's just you made me feel better about that. It's not just me.
I mean, because it's still right there and I can still fly back down, but I'm like, please send me.
That's what was hard about Romania was, you couldn't leave.
You can't get home.
COVID, and it's too far away. And,
yeah.
But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Gone are the days, man, where we could be on different sets at different times. I remember doing Grays and popping there and popping here and all that stuff. And, we would be able to, you could go to Vancouver, come down the next day and shoot BOSCH if you wanted or something like that. You can't do that anymore right now. I don't know.
I was so fortunate. No, when I did BOSCH, at the same time, I did Unsolved, the story of Biggie and Tupac.
Yeah.
And they literally, one day I went, BOSCH 6 a.m., got to get to Unsolved by noon and get back to BOSCH at 5 p.m. And they all worked it out for me, the ADs.
Yeah.
It was
That's
incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, to be an actor, to get to work on 2 shows in LA, it's incredible.
I remember doing that for Grays. I was like back and forth, man. And it was, you felt like a rock star. Like, you're like, okay, cool. I'm going here. Then they worked it all out. It was great. All right. We're going to take it back to New Jersey. We're going to take it back to, that guy who was, slamming the steering wheel, just saying, let me quit. Let me quit. And I guess my question would be, what would you say to that younger you looking back? What advice would you give?
First, I'd say enjoy the ride more, because I was I wanted it so badly, and delivering microscopes wasn't my thing. And but I believed in me. I believed in me deeply, even though I didn't have all the proof. And I think my best trait was to not give up.
Yeah,
to just not give up. But I really wish I had enjoyed the ride more. And to this day, I'm still burdened with not enjoying the ride enough of life. Work, I love. I'm literally still a kid in the candy store when they have my name at the gate. Like, really? I'm invited in. Yes. Seriously.
When I get a script that has my name on it. When I get a script that has my name on it.
All that stuff. Like, I got a trailer. I've got my own ward. Like, I love it. I love every aspect of what I get to do. And I know how fortunate I am, and that's probably why I try so hard on every audition. I just, I wish I could enjoy the ride of life more, because I get so caught up in I got to do this, I got to do that, I got to make this money, I got to, And that's why when you get to go to Vancouver or whatever, you're like,
I know.
I just got to pay the bills,
I know we're friends and I'll see you around and all that stuff like that, but I just want to thank you. Like, it has been so inspiring to just sit this past hour with you and just hear inside of your.
I can't believe it's been an hour. I was like, you're like, we're wrapping up here. I'm like, yeah.
You're like, I'm just getting started. No, thank you so much, man. You continue to inspire, and just I have nothing but hope and motivation for your career moving forward. And I know it's not going to stop. Like, I know you're not going to stop. And man, we're rocking it out. And so, thank you for coming on here.
Thank you for letting me do this, because this is a thrill for me too. Because not many people ask me to do this, and then it's you who I'm friends with. That it's very special to me, so I appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
All right, bye guys.
Didn't I tell y'all that Jamie McShane was going to be the truth? thetruth.com. I don't even know where to start with this D12 shot. Was it being pinned from February to August, or his process when he gets audition sides? That was gold. That was so much gold in itself. It was so, I was like listening to every single word. And so if you want to know what a series regular does to, how they're booking, it's all in there. It's all in there. But I suppose since this is a podcast, the thing that stands, out for me the most is how long it took him to be a series regular, and the mental fortitude you needed to get there. It made me lean in. I wanted to lean into when he was talking, but it made me also think that this is truly a long game. And it's not sexy when I start talking about stats and numbers and all that stuff. I know that I've never really been that guy, but it's realistic. The numbers are stacked against us. I've been talking about that since the last podcast episode. They are stacked against us. They just are. I mean, if we were betting in Vegas or at a casino, no one would take these odds of being an actor. Listening to Jamie's path gave me hope all those years ago when I heard it, and it even more when I heard it again over this intimate podcast talk. There's a couple of things I pulled out of this. Your path is your path. Keep working in the direction of your dreams. Keep working smart. Keep putting yourself in the right spaces, and this might pan out for you. And ask yourself, are you willing to wait 25 plus years to get your big break? I mean, no shame if it's a no, but go into it with your eyes wide freaking open.
Kind of like Michael B. Jordan said, you almost have to be insane a little bit to have such blind faith in something you can't see. You almost have to be insane a little bit to have such blind faith in something you can't see. And that's what 25 years will do to you. You will have the staying power. I love that part. The second thing is we will always feel this struggle inside of us. The default actor thoughts that we will never work again. I've talked to so many actors, working actor friends on this podcast. Tommy, Jamie, Angel, Chelsea, all those actors work all the time. All those actors are series regular, and all those actors have the same thing to say. I wonder if I'm ever going to work again in between jobs. All past show guests have said this. The moment the work stops, the thoughts of never working again pop up. We need to heal that wound. Or in times of perceived drought, we might throw in the towel from the looping of that old tape. Jamie was on hold for that show for 6 months. 6. S-I-X. February through August. And I was in knots being on hold for a series regular for 2 months. And he went on 6? What if we leaned into those times of not working with a knowing, I've been here before. This time won't last long, or it might, who knows? But I know this is what I'm meant to be doing. I know how much I love acting, what I desire to do, what I'm called to do. So I'm going to lean in and trust the universe. And in the meantime, embrace other things I love. Family, writing, creating, singing, traveling. The old mindset of if I hustle more, more will come to me is tired, y'all. It's an old mindset of the actors that thought the only way to make it was to pound the pavement, to hustle. That's not our consciousness, friends. That's not our life. Let's stop repeating that tired mantra of theirs over and over again, and let's start living an empowered one. Empowered one. You don't have to do more to think you're going to get more. This can be easy. Let it be easy. I told y'all Jamie had me on fire. I am so in love with this podcast, y'all. So good. That's it for me. That is it for me on this episode. I'm going to ask, like I always do, if you enjoyed this episode and the D12 shot, I hope you'll consider following me on Instagram and on the TikTok. I'm always going to ask you to share. If you could share it with one friend, share it on Instagram, TikTok, or a friend, wherever you want to put it. This D12 shot needs to get out. Jamie needs to be heard by more people because he's first of all, a lovely human being, but what he shared on this podcast needs to be heard by more actors. And if you want to work with me or the Think Bigger team, check us out with all the show links under this episode, or you can go to thinkbiggercoaching.com and join my membership, join my club, join a club where you can get direct coaching from me and or my team. And I want to just say this one more time. Remember, don't quit. Don't get out of line. Borrow my faith in you because I am rooting so very hard for you.